Password required. Access allowed.
My buddy! Francis! What happened?
Imagine waking up to find that the world is transformed into a video game. Instead of another monotonous day at your dead-end job, monsters are bursting through portals like uninvited party crashers. Probably not what you want, hey?
What the fuck is going on?
The only thing standing between humanity and chaos are the Hunters, a mix of unstoppable warriors and some seriously underqualified recruits. Enter Sung Jin-Woo, the unlikely hero leading the charge from the back. Stick around and we'll dive into this epic journey from noob to powerhouse and discover what makes him the ultimate game changer. If Jin-Woo were a character in your favorite MMORPG, he'd be the one everyone politely ignores during the boss raid. Even the healers are like, nah, I'll save my mana, thanks. This dude is rocking an E rank, which is the RPG equivalent of your grandpa trying to figure out how to use TikTok.
Remember, it's hot.
Completely out of his element. But Jin-Woo, he's not your average weakling.
Oh no.
He's got something most people lack: grit. The psychological kind of grit that keeps you going even when life feels like it's trolling you harder than a Dark Souls boss fight. And trust me, life has definitely been trolling him. So, here's the thing. Jin-Woo isn't bad at being a hunter because he's lazy or unmotivated. No.
Totally sucks.
Like, imagine playing a character that has the durability of a wet napkin and the combat skills of an inflatable arm-flailing tube man. And yet, our guy keeps showing up to these raids, getting his butt handed to him on a silver platter over and over again. It's like someone who decided to play Dark Souls blindfolded, with one hand tied behind their back, and refused to take advice because, I
got this.
But why? Because Jin-Woo's not just stubborn, he's practically the embodiment of that one more game mindset. Like the scenario where you're still awake at 4 AM after saying you'd log off hours ago. It's either that or the dude has a masochistic streak a mile wide. But anyway, as if the universe finally got tired of laughing at him, something incredible happens. So get this, after one particularly brutal dungeon massacre, Jin-Woo doesn't just wake up feeling like his usual low-tier punching bag self. Oh no, the universe goes full Deus Ex Machina on him and gives him a system. That's right, he unlocks an RPG leveling system in real life. It's like the universe was like, hey man, you've suffered enough, here, have some cheat codes. And from this moment on, it's game on! Jin-Woo is suddenly out there grinding XP like it's 2007, and he's trying to beat Oblivion in one night. He's out there farming dungeons and bosses like he's got the World of Warcraft grind mentality mixed with a little Skyrim at 3 AM. Only with monsters, not glitches. Now, while everyone else in the world is stuck in their regular, non-superpowered lives, Jin-Woo is out stacking strength points like he's preparing for a bodybuilding competition. He goes from being the guy nobody wanted on their team to the guy everyone is afraid to play against. Let's talk about what this really means. It's the fantasy we all secretly crave. Imagine life had an actual leveling system. You could see your skill points going up after each task. Like finishing an assignment would boost your INT stat, or taking out the trash would give you +5 strength. You'd be guzzling energy drinks and doing push-ups all day long trying to break the high score in the game of life, eh? But for Jin-Woo, this is real. Every time he steps into a dungeon, he knows he's about to come out of it stronger, faster, better. And yeah, it's satisfying. But it's not just about Jin-Woo getting OP and slapping monsters around like they're NPCs who just insulted his haircut. There's something deeper in play here. It taps into that basic human desire for control over your life. The kind of control that makes you feel like you can change your fate. No matter how hard the universe is laughing at you. Let's take a moment to break down how solo leveling seamlessly blends two seemingly different cultural approaches. The tireless, work-obsessed energy of Korea with the escapist, fantasy-driven dreams of Western RPG nerds. It's like the perfect crossover event, where both worlds get to shine and amplify each other. On the one hand, you've got the Korean ethos of relentless grinding, and on the other hand, the epic, dragon-slaying, boss-raid fantasy of Western gamers. Somehow, it all fits together in a story that feels as much about leveling up in life as it is about slaying giant, horrific monsters. Let's start with the Korean side of things. South Korea is known for its hard-working culture, and that doesn't just apply to school or work. It bleeds into their gaming habits too. Gaming isn't just a pastime in Korea, it's almost a way of life. Walk into any PC Bang, the legendary internet cafes where gamers camp out for hours on end, and you'll see row after row of people locked into their screens grinding away at their favorite games. Whether it's League of Legends, Overwatch, or any number of other online multiplayer games. People practically live in these places, fueled by ramen and energy drinks, and they don't stop until they've leveled up or hit some leaderboard they've been chasing for days. This grind until your eyeballs fall out mentality is reflected perfectly in Jin-Woo's relentless dungeon crawling. The guy's out there running dungeons like it's his job, which, to be fair, it kind of is. But unlike most hunters, Jin-Woo isn't doing it because he wants to. He does it because he has to. His initial struggles are a direct parallel to the Korean work ethic. You keep showing up and putting in your hours even when it feels like you're going nowhere. You die, you respawn, and try again. You fail, no big deal, you grind harder. You're tired, push through, because at the end of the day, being on the top of that leaderboard makes it all worth it. Now, on the Western side of things, solo leveling taps into something a little different. The desire for escapism and heroism that is so prevalent in Western RPG culture. If you've spent any time playing games like World of Warcraft or Skyrim or The Witcher, you'll know that half of the fun of the games is living out your ultimate fantasy. Being like the chosen one, you know? The hero, the guy who slays dragons and saves the world. Western fantasy RPGs thrive on the idea of grand adventure, epic boss battles, and that sweet, sweet feeling of getting stronger with every battle. It's about the power trip of going from just another adventurer to the one that legend spoke of. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? Solo leveling takes this classic Western RPG element and dials them up to 11. Jin-Woo's dungeons aren't just little caves with a few goblins wandering around. They're full-on epic raids with bosses so big and monstrous, they're gonna make you question your life choices. It's like every dungeon he enters is the final raid in the World of Warcraft, and every monster he faces is some kind of eldritch horror that's ready to squash him like a bug. But of course, Jin-Woo rises to the occasion, leveling up with each victory, just like any good old Western RPG protagonist. But what makes solo leveling truly unique is how it marries these two approaches. It takes the Korean emphasis on hard work and perseverance and combines it with the Western love of power, fantasy, and epic storytelling. Jin-Woo doesn't just grind for the sake of grinding, he's doing it for survival. But in the process, he becomes the hero of his own story in the way only a Western RPG protagonist could. He gets stronger, smarter, and more powerful until he's not just surviving, he's thriving. And as a viewer, watching him rise from the ashes of his early failures to become the unstoppable Shadow Monarch is the ultimate payoff. Early on, Jin-Woo has a bad case of imposter syndrome, like, yeah, I'm a hunter, but I'm also the weakest link, so why am I even here? The guy's just trying to survive day to day while everyone around him is wondering why he's still showing up to work.
Yeah, it's rough.
But once he starts leveling up, his whole perspective shifts. He goes from wondering if he even belongs to realizing he's the Shadow Monarch, basically the scariest dude on the planet. The confidence boost is real, but there's also a downside to being this OP. It's not just about beating monsters anymore. Jin-Woo now has responsibilities. He's got an army of shadow soldiers to command, a family to protect, and, oh yeah, the entire world to save from impending doom. No pressure, right? Now we've got to talk about Jin-Woo's squad. Every overpowered protagonist needs a team, right? But here's the thing, solo leveling actually gives us some side characters we can root for. Sung Jin-Woo is the heart and soul of solo leveling, and his character arc is one of the most satisfying transformations in modern manhwa. He begins as an E-rank hunter, which is the lowest of the low. Think of it like being the last kid picked for dodgeball, except in Jin-Woo's case, dodgeball involves lethal monsters, and being last can get you killed. Jin-Woo's struggles are as much psychological as they are physical. He's aware of his weakness, constantly reminded of it by his fellow hunters, and endures the humiliation of being considered a burden. Yet there's an undeniable grit to him. Despite how outmatched and overpowered he is, Jin-Woo never stops fighting. His tenacity is his greatest asset. Now let's talk about Cha Hae-in, one of the few people who can keep up with Jin-Woo's insane power levels. Cha Hae-in is an S-rank hunter, the best of the best, but her character is much more than just another powerhouse. She's also dealing with her unique struggles, namely her hypersensitivity to mana, which isolates her from others. Her ability to sense mana to such a degree makes her uncomfortable around most hunters because their mana stinks to her. This may seem like a weird problem to have, but it's a great metaphor for feeling out of place in your world. Hae-in is a loner, not because she wants to be, but because she can't help it. Jin-Woo, however, is an exception. His mana doesn't bother her, which sparks her initial interest in him, both as a fellow hunter and potentially something a little more. Next up is Yoo Jin-ho, the golden retriever of the group. Jin-ho is the quintessential sidekick character, but his unwavering loyalty and earnest personality make him more than just comic relief. At first glance, Yoo Jin-ho might seem like he's in way over his head, especially compared to Jin-Woo's rapidly increasing power levels. He's not particularly strong or skilled, but what he lacks in physical ability, he makes up for in enthusiasm and heart. Jin-ho is the guy who's just happy to be included, and his bromance with Jin-Woo is one of the most endearing aspects of the story. I think Jin-ho's role is essential because he represents the kind of supportive friend everyone needs. The guy who's willing to hold your bags and cheer you on, even when he's totally out of his depth. He's the comic relief to Jin-Woo's more serious, stoic demeanor, but he's also a reminder that strength comes in many forms. Jin-ho's courage and loyalty make him invaluable, even if he's not the one slaying the monsters, and honestly, who doesn't love a good sidekick? There are also key characters like Jin-Woo's family, who are more than just plot devices to drive the protagonist's motivations. His mother, who's in a magical coma for much of the story, serves as the emotional anchor for Jin-Woo's initial drive to become stronger. He isn't just fighting for himself, he's fighting for his family. His relationship with his sister adds another layer of depth, showing that beneath the tough exterior and growing power, Jin-Woo is still just a guy who wants to protect the people he loves. We can all get behind that. The antagonists in solo leveling are equally as engaging, each bringing their own set of challenges to Jin-Woo's journey, from rival hunters who want to take him down, to dungeon bosses who push him to the limit. The villains in this story aren't just there to be defeated, they often serve as mirrors to Jin-Woo's journey. As he grows stronger, the threats he faces become more complex, forcing him to rethink his strategies and question his limits. In short, the characters in solo leveling aren't just background noise to the epic dungeon battles and power leveling, they're fully fleshed out individuals with their own motivations, struggles, and growth arcs. Whether it's Jin-Woo's rise from the weakest to the strongest, Cha Hae-in's quiet strength, or Jin-ho's loyal optimism, each character brings something essential to the story, making solo leveling not just a great action-packed series, but a character-driven narrative that keeps you emotionally invested from start to finish. So, why isn't solo leveling getting the hype it deserves? Honestly, it's baffling. Sure, it's a Korean manhwa and not a Japanese anime, but that's just regional bias talking. Korea's out here producing fire content, and Solo Leveling is the perfect example. It's got action, it's got heart, it's got enough epic fight scenes to keep you on the edge of your seat for hours. What's not to love? Maybe some people dismiss it because they think it's just another power fantasy. Well, I mean, yeah, it is a power fantasy. But it's also more than that. It's a story about self-determination, grit, and what happens when you take control of your life and refuse to let the world drag you down. So, if you're not watching Solo Leveling, you're missing out on one of the most satisfying journeys in anime. Jin-Woo's story is more than just a series of epic fights and level ups. It's a psychological deep dive into what happens when the underdog finally gets his day, and how the power to change your life might just be one dungeon raid away.
Game over.